Oh, look at that. It's kind of a wild looking look there. A little.
It never ceases to amaze me. It's just initial reaction to whatever picture I
I
have.
know it's
Like, oh, squirrel. Oh,
kind of outdoorsy,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
crazy sun or sunset. Could be either way.
Yeah. Hi, John.
John McGinnis.
I can see our chat this time.
Yeah, we've had those things.
Hey.
Robin,
hi,
Robin, Kale. My goodness, talking about a place. I think people have asked me, "Where's one of the most active places?" I said, "Well, you'd be surprised. It's not where it's a friend of mine, and it's her house." Kale Airlines, Kale Airport. Can I help you?
That's right, exactly.
I mean, if you watch them, she's really got some interesting stuff. They talk to her,
sure.
the dogs, and she's just
her visuals too, really amazing. Really amazing.
Yeah, it's more and more. But that's the positive things in the paranormal we have. People like her and good people.
Yeah.
And speaking of positive, we get a really cool guest on tonight that super busy kind of guy out there doing good stuff.
Yeah, he's really busy. So I'm glad he could come on with us.
He got to come on, and we introduce you to people that either you may know or may not, but if you don't, you get a chance to kind of say hi and reach out to them as well. So I would tell you, Kelly, what do you think? Without further ado,
I think we should bring him in because he has a lot of cool things to share with us. We were kind of talking about some things coming up and backstage, and I think there are some things that people may know about. And hopefully,
folks, let's not wait any longer.
Amen.
Known by millions, loved by thousands. And yet he still came on our show tonight. Folks, give it up for the one, the only Lee Kirkland.
I feel like busting through a door like on WWE or something.
Yeah, run down the aisle, jump in the cage. Yeah, that is WrestleMania this weekend. The big event, right? They're having it so big now, Lee. They're doing it. I think it's a Friday night. They've got a bunch of matches, and then I think they do is it a Saturday main event as well? They do another.
That sounds right, man. I've been kind of out of that scene for a while. It's I'm into more of the UFC stuff, so I can answer those questions. But
I do. I watch that as well. I think it's fun. Like tonight's Monday Night Raw. It's fun to watch that and the build up. They're building, of course, the big WrestleMania. So good for them. But speaking of wild, crazy things going on, other than inside a steel cage, which sometimes you may be in that situation. Let's give it up to you. Let's pass the mic and take us back to, I was born a small child, and
I don't know if I was ever little. I'm a pretty big guy, even as a baby.
Yeah, you were corn-fed. You were
I was corn-fed.
12 pounds, got a head like a bucket, ate like a mule. Oh my goodness! Well, yeah. So give it up for what you got going, and who are you? What you're about, and tell our peeps what's going on with Lee Kirkland.
Well, I've been involved with the paranormal for honestly, decades now. It all started just I grew up in a really haunted house. They filmed a show about that on the Travel Channel called Hometown Horror. Kind of told a little bit of my story. I don't really like doing those one-off shows much because they kind of twist and tangle so much. But my sister was like, Lee, I want to do it. I want to be on TV. So, I had to give in to the big sis, and we did it, and it was fun. They didn't do too bad, but that kind of told the story of my childhood home. But it was on the battlefield of Perryville battlefield rather in Kentucky, and it was a very, very significant battle. What decided the War of the South, and a house and the property was all really active. And up until I got married, I was like crazy scared of everything, because I was so scared as a kid. And then once we got older and the ghost stuff started becoming more prevalent, I started kind of researching a little bit more and learning more and realizing that it's not a whole lot to be afraid of. Nothing's really hurt me. And got involved with, it was Jeff Waldridge, myself, and Patty Starr, and we all created something called Scarefest. And Scarefest is still around today. We kind of stepped away at the 10-year mark and started doing our own stuff. But it's kind of fun to say that I was one of the people that started Scarefest. I used to book the guests for them and set everything up and event manager type stuff. So I got a lot of experience with that, but I also got to connect with a lot of celebrity guests, both horror and paranormal, and created a lot of relationships. And one of those was with the Ghost Adventures. I had reached out to these guys on MySpace. I don't know. I'm sure you guys remember MySpace. And I heard that these cats were doing out in Las Vegas or out in Nevada were doing this documentary. And so I was like reaching out to them. I was like, hey, you guys need to come show your documentary at our convention. And so it all kind of triggered that. And then they got picked up. Those guys were brought out to Scarefest for their first ever appearance. So I thought that was kind of cool that I did that. But I just became good friends with all the guys, and especially Nick. Nick Groff is one of my best friends. I love him like a brother. He's closer to me than my real brother, to be honest.
Wow.
And so I stepped away from Scarefest about the time he stepped away from Ghost Adventures. And there was a clause saying that he couldn't do anything, like a non-compete clause for a little bit. And I said, well, man, we need to do something. We're bored. We're both bored. We both just did this. And so we started up the Nick Groff tour. And so we started traveling around the country, renting out locations and bringing him to the fans and letting, people come investigate with him and whatnot, it was a lot of fun. But then, a lot of the events were contacting me and wanting Nick to do appearances because they knew I was his buddy and I could help them get in touch with him.
Right.
And so once I started getting him into events, other people that I had contacts with were like, hey, can you get us into events? Can you get us into events? And at that time, there was no real management out there. And so I started picking up on the management stuff. So I've been doing that now for several years. I've been very fortunate, but I've worked hard. I say that I've been fortunate, but I've put a lot of work in because there's a lot of shitty people out there. And if you don't gain people's trust, or if you try letting people do this kind of stuff that are like, I like to call them fanagers, they might be a fan and then they're trying to book people in, you're going to get screwed and screwed and screwed. And it's just like the catastrophe that happened out in Las Vegas. Man, I wouldn't send anybody out there. So anybody that went on their own accord, I preached against it. And then everybody saw what happened. So you don't understand the amount of people, even the psychics that went out there were like, oh, we should listen to you. I was like, I've done events far too long, and I know what it takes, and I know what's going to work and what's not. And I told those guys, I was like, sorry, I'm not trying to be negative, but it's not going to work. And so after that mess, a lot of people started to keep coming to me, and they keep coming to me, and I've just grown my client list, exponentially. And I do deal with a lot of paranormal, but I also deal with a lot of the cryptozoology stuff, which is one of my favorites. And that kind of leads into something else that I have going is CryptidCon. It's a convention, CryptidCon, Bigfoot Monsters and Legends. And we're going into our 6th year, and it is the biggest cryptid convention in the nation at this point. We've grown and grown and grown. It's a great time. If anybody's into anything like that, and we do throw in paranormal as well, aliens, anything out there that's cryptid, I kind of broke that threshold. There was a lot of, Bigfoot conferences and stuff like that, but I wanted to throw them all together. And so when we did that, it hit, and now you're seeing cryptid paranormal conventions popping up everywhere. It cracks me up. There was one recently that just popped up that said, it was something Monsters and Legends. I was like, yeah, that's kind of in my name, Bigfoot Monsters and Legends, but it's just kind of funny. And same thing with Scarefest. When we did that, everybody kind of popped up with the horror and paranormal festivals, and it's a form of flattery, I guess. But I also own the only street festival, Bigfoot street festival in the state of Kentucky. We started that up about 5 years ago, and COVID killed it, but we're bringing it back next year. The city's come back to us and they want us to redo it. So I totally stay busy with the tour, the paranormal tour, the management, the events, my own events. It's nonstop, to be honest with you, but I wouldn't have it any other way. And I work full time in medicine. So that's what the kicker is.
What do you do in medicine?
I'm a radiology specialist and have been for 23 years.
Yeah. I'm a paramedic, I work for a doctor's group, and you get to go out and do that and stay busy. I mean, you could stay as busy as you want to. If
I
you
was
wanna.
going to say that's busy.
Yeah.
Woo-wee.
Oh man,
But,
COVID was the worst. Oh, like
yeah.
my office is still wearing masks. I choose not to, because I have a fabulous beard and I don't want to mess it up.
Yeah, I
But
mean but being the tales of that, but well, you're doing the good stuff in the paranormal, and it is a shame when you mention the stuff about the folks who aren't, and I tend to share a light on that those folks tend to manifest their own darkness, and when they do, they tend to kind of get a spot in their own kind of hell on here on earth, because I don't think people, you speak about how you book people, I think you get to know the ones who eventually have went down that path, and you're
oh,
like, I don't want anything. Yeah, but like you mentioned, you talk about trust and believing in people and good, and then you start hearing or seeing or about the ones who are not. Man, that's what's so
Well,
important.
That trust goes into all your event building also.
Yeah,
If
it does.
it
they
does.
have
Yeah.
a good experience, whether they're a guest or a speaker or, a member of the public coming, if they have a great experience, they're going to remember that. And
I think that vendors are really, really important as well. I think that any kind of vendor is very key in your events. Because I mean, if you're there and there's only 2 lectures within I was at Horror Hound, which Nathan, the guy that owns Horror Hound, in Cincinnati last weekend, and he did a great job. He's a great promoter. He had a ton of great guests, but the vendors, there just wasn't that many. And like, I walked to the vendor hall within a matter of a few minutes. And, if you're not watching a seminar, if you're not listening to a Q&A, what do you do at these places, And
Right.
I love my vendors, and, I want to spend at my own events. I spend way too much money with vendors, but I just think they're key in any event. I really do. I think that they're very important, and we try to keep those guys really happy in our events.
Well, that's a positive thing. That's so true. And the ones who I think that you get there, they had a positive time, things were really good, then those are the ones who get to want to come back.
Oh,
So
absolutely. And then they tell the next vendor at the next show, hey, this show was great. So
well, and that's Kelly's talked about the fact of vending at locations and stuff, and you tie down to, you bring stuff and you're there and you're locked down at that table. You don't get to really get up and wander and frolic around and hey, and then there you go. I don't get up and frolic around too much unless
I'm the frolicker of the pair.
Unless people are like, hey Keith, come over and see this, or
yeah.
But I don't like to leave the table if she's got like shirts or other things.
And that's something that we try to work with is, my son and his friends will help with our events. And if they can't, then I will personally go around. Hey, you guys need a restroom break? I can sit here for you if you need to go. Grab a bite to eat, grab something to drink. We really try to take care of them. If they need drinks, we'll bring them. Drinks if they need them. So because it is hard if you're there and you're especially by yourself. You can't do a whole lot.
Kelly takes like a margarita, lightly salted, and I'm kind of an old fashioned, maybe something like that.
Yeah,
and then it just puts you in such a great mood. You're just like, I'm fine. I feel great. Well, so, speaking of which, and I know we always try to stay in the world of the positivity and things, but in a light of how things are going and shows getting renewed and so forth, I happen to notice that now with Project Fear, that what is so great about those kids, the 4 of them, is they took a negative thing, spun it around, turned it into something positive. And they have such a great following, that their fans were like, we're not going to let you sink.
Right.
They dove in and they were like, hey, and they did it. And I think, me and Kelly, it wasn't like maybe 2 days and they like, boom.
I was really impressed for sure. I've been in communication with all the guys and girl, and they're very, very grateful. I mean, they are the biggest, grateful bunch of kids. I call them kids because they're so much younger than me, but they're great. They're great kids. They're great. They're grateful to their fans. They do a good work. I can't say enough good stuff about those guys.
Well, that's why when I saw that, I had approached Kelly about the fact of saying, hey, we're So we just put up something that was like, hey, we're in support of really kind of everybody. We really do. And we hope that,
Sorry.
so that's Kelly's guest for next week, already popping through the door. They're so excited. But but no, I've got friends as well that have some projects that are near to be coming out and stuff, and I keep in touch with them and hopefully about getting them on the show. So and that for me, I'm excited to see what those kids turn out and what they do, and to follow them, because nothing kept them down. They just
No, not at all.
from the one to
Very,
the other.
very
And I'm
happy
like,
for them,
hey,
yeah.
well, they remain positive in light of whatever else
I
happened.
think that, these big networks, just I was, because I'm behind the scenes on so much stuff, but there was one of the network's most positive shows. I mean, they have the craziest following you've ever seen, and they literally made nothing filming this show, and it's the Mountain Monsters cast. Man, I love those guys. They're all very close friends of mine, but and their following and their numbers were just outrageously good. And during the merger, they got cut or postponed, or they've not been told anything. But I don't see how. I know what some of the cast members make on different shows, and knowing what those guys were pulling and the numbers that they were pulling for the networks. Man, those networks are kind of shitty. They really are. They're not good with a lot of the cast. I mean, there are a few that they're really good with, but I mean, I feel sorry for some of them. I'm not gonna lie. It can be a little stressful for some of those guys. So seeing them go out and make their own content, Destination Fear, or Project Fear, I guess now. Katrina and Taddy are doing their own thing. Nick's doing his own thing. Shane Pittman is doing his own thing now with his group. I love seeing that, because it puts them in control of their own destiny and their own fate right there. And
Right.
If they're putting out their own good content and it works, then it works, and they've done it. They're not being controlled by a network that's telling them what they have to do, and if they have to get possessed, or if they have to do this and that, which is all kind of BS. They're the ones that's doing it the way that they want to do it, and they don't have to worry about anybody telling them what to do. So I respect that big time.
That is true. You're right about that.
Yeah.
Well, and that's
John,
why
you're right too. John says do it yourself, and he's right.
Exactly.
He does independent filming as well, and I mean, I truly agree with you. I think that's the way to go. And now there's so many platforms. I mean, to be more in control of your own, content, I think is just fabulous. I wanted to ask you though, this is a different direction. But with your Crypticon that you have you actively gone out and investigated your
I have, yeah. I try to get into absolutely everything, and I've researched rather any kind of phenomenon you can imagine. We were locally, there's a group here called Northern Kentucky Bigfoot Research Organization, and it's in Trimble County, Kentucky. It's very far north, up next to Ohio, on the river. And Thomas Shea, and I have him at all my events because he's legit. If you asked all the top researchers in the country who is the best researcher out there, they're going to name that man. And just the amount of stuff that he gets, the amount of evidence that he gets is just ridiculous. So we have went out with him several times, and we've casted some prints, but the most I guess, I don't want to say scary, but the most the coolest thing that had happened to us is we were all kind of sitting around a campfire, and you heard a noise kind of coming from like an area behind us, and then a big limb comes flying through the woods at us. So something had thrown a big limb. I mean, I'm talking big limb through the woods at us. And then when we went down to investigate, we found some prints. And so I was like, man, is this real? Did this really just happen? So I thought that was one of the coolest things that I've experienced out while looking for, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it. But it's a different kind of thrill. I mean, because you're out in the woods, and I've been investigating the paranormal, ghost hunting for decades now, and I've had some crazy experiences. But those experiences are almost like you can't process what's going on. And so when it happens, you're like, you're kind of emotionless, and then it kicks in, then you're like, oh shit, what did I just see? But with this stuff, you're like, is this real? Did I just see this? And did something just throw this big limb at me? And so it's just a different kind of adrenaline rush, I guess, is the easiest way to put it. So I don't know, but it was fun. I really enjoy getting out in the woods anyway. I'm a hunter anyway. So.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think then, Lee, I'm a big hunter myself, and I got to thinking, do you think it's more of a matter that in the Bigfoot world that you see more, you have more sightings, or is it that the people actually say that they hear Bigfoot?
I think the whole hearing thing, like I've heard a few things that I can't, because I just sold my farm, and I was out in the woods at the end of a dead end row. I mean, I had everything all to myself, and we would hear a few things, but I've never seen anything on my place. But you do hear a lot of hunters saying that they see something moving through the woods and whatnot. Yeah, that's a good question. I would probably say, just guessing, that people have heard something more so than seeing something. I don't know. I want to see something. I want some kind of a tangible evidence. There's so many theories out, just like with ghosts or UFOs or whatnot, about Bigfoot. Whether it's a ghost, whether it's an alien, or whether it's, blood and bone, nobody really knows. And it's so funny because, like, at CryptidCon, you'll have the hardcore, blood and bone researchers, and then you'll have the kind of the paranormalists that think that it's relative to aliens, or UFOs, or it's moving through wormholes or dimensions and portals. And so those guys, I don't want to say that they don't get along, but they we try to keep them separate, if that makes sense, because those are pretty tricky confrontations, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Robin has a question. She asks if you believe in aliens.
Oh,
Robin.
Absolutely, I do. I mean, well, it's coming out now. I think that it's going to be coming out more and more, and it's like, I think that the media tries to hide it. I think they've been desensitizing us from the media, or on the media, for years now. I think that they're trying to make it. Whenever the government did come out and say, "Hey, there's UFOs," nobody even really said anything. They were like, "Oh, okay, cool." And had that happened in 1990, even, people would have had lost their minds that there's UFOs.
Yeah.
So I definitely believe in aliens. Yeah, that's probably my honestly, it's probably one of my favorite subjects, to be honest. Yeah. I think that's, I don't know. I just think that they're going to make contact eventually. And, I've had Travis Walton, he was the famous abductee at a few of my events, and man, he's an interesting fella. And to actually hear him talk and talk, tell his story, if you get the opportunity, check that guy out and you see him in person.
Well, I tell you what, I've got probably one of my best friends, a guy that I love like a brother too, Mike Casey. Do you know Mike Casey?
I know the name, but I don't know him personally, I think.
Well, he's on here. He goes, nice hat, Keith Bailey. he had this hat made for me years ago, and he was involved in a little bit in the paranormal, but you could always see that there was this yearning. Well, he finally got to be to where he went out and he says, I'm really got the call for the woods and he started, kind of doing the thing with the Bigfoot and just kind of just getting out there where he wanted to be out in nature. And, if it happened, it happened. Mm-hmm. Well, so, I don't know. You don't know, but I will say I had my first experience last year ever in my life in, in Canada, in Saskatchewan last year. And you mentioned about, you talk about, the seeing the thing and so forth. But the other for me was hearing it. And I think the hearing it thing is what made me have more of the fear than if I had seen it just crossing a cut line.
Yeah.
But hearing it was, it was, I'm 6'5", built like a refrigerator, tall, wide cross, big guy, look like a bouncer at your local disco. But as it turns out, I was in my deer stand up there. And let me tell you, to hear those sounds of like poplar trees up there
Uh-huh.
getting broken, and then just the whack and just whack, whack,
Yeah.
and then to hear that, just that guttural,
Mm.
guttural. I had I got a recording from one that came up out of the, not from me, but from and I actually kept it, and I wonder if we got like 30 seconds to play it, Kelly, to let him listen to it. It's not, now this is not me. This is from another person that happened in the woods. I sent it to a friend of mine, and as it turned out, this is exactly what I ended up hearing in the woods. And I told my friend, I was like, this is what happened. I'll get to it right here quick. Because once he ended up hearing it, then he knew, he was like, okay, yeah, that's pretty rough. I'll
Did you hear anything, Lee, when you had your experience? Did you hear anything besides the branch itself?
We did not. No. No. It would just, you could hear movement in the, in the woods, and then that thing came flying through.
Mm-hmm.
let's see if he's still. Let's see. Now I'm gonna play this.
Flip, I'm sure he can explain it.
Let's see.
Disturbing things filmed in the deepest parts of the woods. This clip, recorded in 2017, filmed in the Canadian woods, captures a horrifying scream coming from the distance. No one knows what the sound is
Y'all hear
coming
it?
from, but here is
Yeah.
the clip.
Okay, but
Okay,
So-
yeah.
I wouldn't want to be out in the woods unarmed and hear that. I really wouldn't.
Well, so they added some of that. You get the whole thing. They
yeah, but
music
as
and other.
outdoorsmen, you would also have to rule out any sort of animal predator that's also in that area.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like Lee was
Like-
mentioning about being an outdoorsman, I was one since I was like 6 with my dad. I had to sit on his lap to go hunting, and Lee will probably tell you, it's you get to know sounds that are like, okay, that sound I'm cool with. Yeah, that might cause that's be a change my pants encounter. That's Mike Casey. I tell you what, he's a very smart guy when it comes to it, though. He's getting to know his place. So what I'm saying with Lee is, times when you hear something and you're like, okay, you're cool with that.
Yeah.
You hear something else and you might go, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
So on top of that stuff that happened off of those poplars, which, like the aspen, like the big old round solid ass trees up in Saskatchewan, Canada. Time went by, and then when you heard that guttural way down coming up sound, I was like trying to look up a wilderness Canadian Uber, like to how quick can you get to me? No, I did end up calling my my outfitter and said, can we have some soup for lunch or something? And I came in. Well, what was so wild is once I told him, and then my outfitter's uncle, he said, well, let's talk. And he said,
man,
we don't advertise when we work these hunts. But yeah, they're out here. And it's just that you had that encounter, not, and
right.
And I said, wow. And they said, yeah, we don't go out after dark off in the woods. Like, we don't go out there just traipsing around.
If I heard that, I wouldn't either.
Yeah, man. It's scoop you off.
I should ask you too, because right now, and with what you do, and the influence of social media and everything on your events and those that you manage and that kind of thing, I'm sure you see snippets of these sorts of things. But what's your take on all of the lore of your area, of like Appalachian lore? And, I mean, there are so many people that have come on and shared stories and legends. And I know that's kind of along the lines of some of the things you might do at your CryptoCon. But what do what's your take on those things? Have you had any experiences with that sort of thing?
I have, and every small town has some kind of a legend. I think whether it be a haunted bridge or a haunted forest or a hitchhiker ghost or in Louisville we have the Pope monster, and that's a half goat man and he lives under a train trestle and he kills kids that come up there, and there's been a few deaths, but what happens is people get up onto the trestle and then they can't get off, and they'll either jump to their death or be cut in half. Even there was one that was cut in half recently. But I love all the old tales, and once you get into deep Appalachia or Appalachia, I should say, from the people that are from that area. I'm more central Kentucky, but my wife is from Eastern Kentucky. So, I like going in those areas and hearing their stories for sure. And then once you get over into West Virginia with the guys that I run around with, the Mountain Monsters cast, man, those woods are deep and dark, and you don't have any idea what's down in there. It's interesting to get down in there in those areas and play and hear stories for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I like when shows kind of touch on that too,
Oh,
because
absolutely. Yeah.
Element of.
Well, there was a show. What was it? It was several years ago. It was one I actually really liked. It was
In Search of?
No, it wasn't In Search Of. I remember that one. This was Haunted Towns or something like, not Haunted Towns. That was Chris and those guys. Gosh, I can't remember. And Jael was on it, DePardo, and I think Jack Osborne ended up coming in on it for a little while. And they were going to like small towns and investigating like little legends in those towns. And yeah, it was such a good show. I really enjoyed that one. And then one of my favorites were, a friend of mine, Ben Hansen, was Fact or Faked. I thought that was a great show. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Man, you talking about a guy there. When you hear me, when you say the name, I even get Ben Hansen. Well, he used to work for the FBI, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's like ding, number one, right? You can't be but that guy, he could sit down and break it down and say, "Let me show you why this is fake." First of all, he's smart beyond.
He really is.
You don't throw something past him to start a show, Fact or Fake. But I got the pleasure. I went on a cruise and he was on it, and man, got to just listen to him talk. And he went.
He's a smart guy.
All kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
we're hoping to get him on the show, but he's really went up in fame. He's got his own show out there, one of the UFO shows that just.
He's really filming currently as well. Ben's I've got to know him pretty well over the past few years, and I've worked with him for years. And probably 10 years ago I had him at Scarefest. But Ben's a good family man. So he does, when he's not working, he's spending time with his family.
I think he's working. I think he finished his master's. He
just finished it, from Georgetown.
Wow.
So, and he's a smart guy.
Oh, so that's why you talk about family man. He had his wife and his little boy, and then they were looking another one. So I think there, but we'd love to have him on the show and just get to speak with him as well. What a guy.
Well, tell us about your haunted house where you grew up. Ooh. Tell us about something that happened there. Like
I got to take a swig. I'm dehydrated. Let's hear about that.
Let's jump to that area of the paranormal.
So when I was a kid, I grew up on a Civil War battlefield. And, I was just always, the house was really, really old. It was haunted. But everybody had different, I guess, experiences in the house. And we would see something on the property even, that we called the gray people. And they were gray in color, and even like being out hunting. My brother quit hunting for a little while. He was 5 years older than me, and he was bow hunting on the riverbank. And we had a big farm. Like it was, I don't know how many hundreds of acres. And it was a big tobacco farm, but it all was like river bottom and woods as well. And so he was out deer hunting in his stand with a bow. You don't have a whole lot of ammo and whatnot, Keith, if you know what it's like bow hunting. And he said that he saw some man walking up the riverbank, and he had a burlap sack on. He said he was completely grayed out, Said even his skin color was gray with like a little like 5 o'clock shadow. And he was just, I called him Johnny Appleseed, kind of picking on my brother because he would reach into the bag and he would spread seeds or look like he was spreading something. And he walked right underneath the deer stand and then kept going. And my brother come down when he was out of sight, came home in tears saying what he saw. And we went back and we couldn't find anything. Me and my dad and my brother and I think one of my cousins. But that was just the kind of things that we would see there. And then my sister was looking out the bathroom or kitchen window one day, and they were standing in the driveway looking up at us, like a whole group of them. And then she would have somebody come upstairs and like come up to the top of the steps and walk over to her bed and, you know, kind of smile at her, and nothing was malevolent. Well, then my brother, he started having some issues, and we think that it was kind of a mental illness type thing. But what triggered it, we don't know. But my last night in that house, everything was out. We were sleeping on mattresses in the floor. I saw him. He come in and we shared a room because we were both scared to stay in the house by ourselves or stay in a room by ourselves. And it's honest truth. Night lights, doors open, you know, right down the hallway from my parents. And I was, he was 16, so I was 11. And he comes in, he lays down, and he jumps up and he starts screaming at me, telling me to get out of the room. And I think, you know, he's just scaring me again. He was my big brother. And so when he did, he starts swinging like he's trying to fight something. And you know, we're country guys. We've thrown punches for a long time. And so the door slams. He goes flying up against the wall. And I'm screaming for my parents at this point, like huddled up in the corner. And I'm watching this because you can see it. Like I said, we have a nightlight and stuff in there. And he's getting beat up on the side of the wall by some unknown force. And I hear my mom and dad banging on the door, and they couldn't get in the door. Well, this house was probably 150 years old, and you know, it didn't have locks, didn't have anything like that. Well, when they finally got the door open, he slid down the wall and laid on the ground, and he has no recollection of any of this happening, even today. Now, today he also struggles with addictions and stuff like that. So, you know, it's kind of one of those things where what triggered these problems that he had, and you know, biblically they would think demons were, you know, of those characters. You know, was that what it was? Was that what's caused these problems for him? I don't know. But that was the last night that we stayed in the house. And even today, like I've literally traveled the country, you know, investigating haunted locations, the most famous ones. And I would have more trouble, I think, spending the night in that house by myself today than I would be at any location I've ever been to. I mean, it was just one of those things. And I know it was from when I was a kid, and, you know, it was traumatic and all this stuff and the things that would happen and we'd see. But still, it was just something that I don't think I would ever want to experience again.
I would say not. Wow, that's intense for sure.
So that makes me ask that question here. So Kelly's going, oh, I know where he's going with this. Do you think that there's a possibility that there could have, due to the amount of activity, have been a portal in that house from the land?
Yes. You know, it was right on the river, and there were so many casualties. There were 7,600 people dead, wounded, or missing in a matter of a few hours in that battle that took place adjacent to our property. You know, there was also, my dad let the University of Minnesota come down and excavate a burial ground there, an Indian burial ground on our property. So there was so much intense energy, I guess, on that property alone. It was all limestone. We had a river that ran through the property. I mean, there was just so much going on. But I think that specific event was around my brother. I think that something was attached to him. And I think that something is still attached to him. I don't know. And that's stuff I don't get into a whole lot, you know, in depth, but, you know, I think that there's some darker issues in that perspective of his life.
So, John just asked a question. Is there anyone currently living in that house?
Yes. Some people came in from California, and I live in rural Kentucky, you know, and so people come in from larger states or cities, and they buy these lands. And they're different types of people. I have attempted to contact these people, and even the production company, when we filmed that show, they went to them and they wanted nothing to do with anything. They will not answer letters. They won't answer phone calls. They want nothing to do with anything of that past from that house and from my childhood there. So that only makes me think that there is something that there is going on that they don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Steve asked, "Is if you know the history of the house where you lived?"
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was pre-Civil War, and so it was used there as a hospital. Everything was used as hospital in that area that was standing. There were some deaths in the house as well. Um, just the property itself, surrounding the house. I can remember a specific story. This is another quick one, but my dad was totally skeptic, and he was just this big old farm guy that wasn't afraid of anything. And so we were in the house one night, and my little dog was barking. There was lots of coyotes and stuff there on the farm, but she was barking. So we went out, or I went out to see what she was barking at to get her to come in. And I saw a figure standing at the corner of the yard, and there was these huge oak trees in the front yard, almost, like plantation type, just these huge, huge trees. And I saw a figure standing next to one of them. And I kind of holler, being a kid, like, what are you doing here? And nothing. And so I went inside and got my brother and my sister and her boyfriend at the time. And then my brother came out as well. And so we're all kind of looking at this thing, and Dad comes out and he's like, what the hell are you all doing out here? I was like, Dad, there's somebody standing in the corner of the yard, and you could see a white figure of somebody standing there. And so he comes out, and he goes back in and grabs a handgun and comes back out. And he's like, what are you doing out here? What do you want? And he starts walking towards it. Man, he fires off about 3 or 4 rounds, and it disappears. And he's probably 15 feet away from it at this point. And he turns around and looks at us. He goes, did you all see that? And we were like, oh my God, yeah, Dad. What was that? He goes, it wasn't nothing. Wasn't nothing. Let's get back inside. And that was him. And that was the kind of stuff that we would deal with constantly at the house. I mean, there was always something around there. But yeah, so it wasn't just the house that was haunted. It was the land itself. Definitely, I believe.
Wow. I don't know how you slept in there. Like hearing your story.
Honestly, today I wouldn't want to stay. And I've been all over the place, and I wouldn't want to spend the night in there, especially by myself. I just wouldn't do it. And it's a big, beautiful home.
Oh, well, Keith and I've talked about that. Oftentimes, at least in my experience, and I know Keith seems to agree on this, but some of the more intense experiences that I've had are working with clients in private cases, not as much, the public and the public ones are amazing, but some of those private cases are really intense. And
and it's I would love to know, honestly, if the new owners, and this has been 30 years, if they had any kind of experience. But like I said, they won't respond to anything. So that just makes me think that they have had experiences, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Can you share with some people, well, everyone, but you and I were talking earlier backstage a little bit about your events that you have coming up and people you represent events?
So, I do represent a lot of people, and I help book. If anybody out there has events that they're doing, I do try to book into as many as I can with my clients. But I have CryptidCon coming up in November. That's my personal event. Then I own the only Bigfoot Street Festival in the state of Kentucky. That's coming back in 2024, though. COVID kind of knocked us out a couple of years, and then the city come back to us wanting us to revamp it. So that will be coming back next year. And then I help out a lot of like smaller towns with their festivals. So I think coming up next, I help out the city of Estes Park, Colorado. It's famous for the Stanley Hotel. I work with that city and set up Estes Park Bigfoot Days. So that's going to be a good time. Yeah, we'll be out there. And then coming up in May, I have the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival down in Townsend, Tennessee, right in the middle of Smoky Mountains. I work with those guys and help set up a few things. Let's see what's coming up after that. In May, I have, I'm sorry.
And then you come to PA, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. In May, we have the Pennhurst Paracon. I'm working with those guys, pretty closely and helping them set up a few things and get their guests in there. I'm really excited. I love Pennhurst, and it's been a long time since I've been there. So I'm excited about coming back to Pennhurst.
Great place. Yeah,
it really
is. Some of my best investigations there.
I got a little scared there. Yeah.
Oh man, these were just good. Just so.
It's just one of those places that every time I've gone there, you can hear things walking around during the day. Like, I mean, you'll hear whistles and footsteps, and I mean, you can be standing still in a building all by yourself and hear all these noises. And
my very first time there, we pulled up outside, and just got out of the car, shut the door, and we were meeting the owner there. I did a Nick Groff tour event there, and shut the door, and immediately we heard a woman scream, like from one of the buildings, and I was like, what was that? And they were like, oh, well, you just had an experience. I'm like, but are you sure there's not somebody here screaming? And they're like, no, it's a spirit. And I'm like, oh my God, I was just excited from that point, but it's a creepy place.
Yeah.
It is a creepy place, but it's so good.
And they are actually there. I don't know if this is public or not, but they are opening up 2 new buildings for investigations for the Pennhurst Paracon that people have not been able to get access to in the past. So I'm really excited about that, checking out those buildings.
Wow.
So if you've not got your VIP tickets yet for I know that they sold out one group and they've opened up another one. So get those VIP tickets.
I need to get with Bob and them and see, because I guess we need to try to get those somehow.
Well, it'll definitely be worth it. I mean, to all those people that are going to go, and I know there's some in the chat and watching that are going. It's just a stellar place. And last summer, I helped with Jody's teen paranormal camp every summer, and I absolutely love it. And they left us into one of the buildings that they're going to have open for Pennhurst Paracon, and it is definitely a place that I have not been before on campus, and it's stellar. We had quite a few experiences. So if those people in the chat, definitely go, not just to meet Lee and see his people, but definitely to have your own experiences.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Whenever you get, and they're basically letting people, there's a celebrity ghost hunt. So there's going to be Brian and Rochelle from Adventure Team or from the reboot of Ghost Hunters. Chris Williams is going to be investigating. Sherry Benedetti is going to be investigating. So they'll be able to kind of, investigate with everybody, but they're also going to have the, I guess the authority to go out on their own and investigate some of these buildings that's not been opened in the past. So, it's going to be a pretty wild time for somebody who's not got the chance to investigate there at Pennhurst.
Yeah,
absolutely. Man.
Absolutely.
I love that place.
How can everybody follow you, Lee, and find out where you're going to be next or what you're up to next?
I am on all social media platforms, but just Lee Kirkland or Creepy People Management on everything. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, but I do access, and I try to post, like, I try to promote every single event that I can on there that I've got clients at. So if you're just looking for something to do, you can hop on one of our pages and say, oh, well, this is going on at this time, or this is going on at this time. And we're all over the country. So you can kind of see if you're in one area and don't want to travel, maybe I can bring something to that area. If there's something going on, I can help bring guests to that area. So I'm always open for suggestions. If you guys have, hey, there's this event going on, you think you could do this, and I'll contact them and try to make something happen. So
have you ever been to Texas?
I have been to Texas. Yeah. I went to the Magnolia House or Magnolia Hotel, and it's a really cool place. I really enjoyed it. I think it was in Seguin.
Yep.
But it's a cool location.
Oh man, there's lots of fun places there that are just stuff around, the Alamo and in or around there, and just lots of fun, lots of history. It's just I enjoy it, and getting to go there. And I've got friends who do tours there as well. And man, we had some sessions last year at one of the places, and maybe I'll get with you. But we had. We spoke to, that's the thing was so amazing about when you go to the locations, as you well know, and Kelly's also, and you're there and you're in that element and you're speaking to this, the spirits, you do get some of the ones of that location, but then you get the family ones come in. And I mean, we had
and that's something that,
the most amazing I've ever had. We were
you're absolutely right. I've had events. And I try to tell I always get up and talk whenever we're doing like these large events. If I've got 100 people there, now you don't investigate with 100 people, obviously, but, we have them broke down into small groups, 10, 12, and then, we disperse everybody in different smaller groups. So, but I'll always tell people, just because you're at this location, somebody here is going to have something with them. And you may be getting this coming through. And it seems like it always happens. And then I always also like to ask, who's a skeptic? Raise your hands. And then at the end of the night, I'll be like, are you still a skeptic? And I've had skeptics actually run out of locations that we've been at to leave. And they're like, we're out of here. You can keep your money. So that always tickles me. I love it.
Yeah.
What's a bucket list place for you?
Oh man. I've been very fortunate in the US. I would love to go back to the UK. I would love to spend some more time over there and be able to investigate. But if I had I would love to investigate the Rome Colosseum. That's just one of those things that I don't know. That's just a major part of history, and a lot of crazy stuff happened there. And I don't even know if anybody's ever been able to or whatnot. But it's just one of those things. I would like to just walk on that ground and just kind of, be there by yourself. Could you imagine being out there by yourself at night, and just kind of listening if there was, no interference and you just had the place to yourself? I mean, that would just be the coolest.
Yeah, the residual, just even alone of people screaming, the chair,
yes,
so much. Oh, geez. And that's why I say that so many with bucket lists are like, wow, that's one do I think I could ever get to? And I actually say, well, I don't. I have mine here in the United States that I want to try to get some to. And of course, the thing about the best locations are what? They're the most expensive.
Sure.
Like $250 a person. Just
where is it that you want to go?
I would love to go to in San Francisco out to the prison.
He wants to go to
Alcatraz. So I tried to do an event at Alcatraz, and they flat up told me that Alcatraz is not haunted, that they're not going to rent me Alcatraz. And I offered them a lot of money, and I didn't realize that the state of California was doing so good, that they were turning down thousands of dollars. But they were like, that was the exact from the state representative from that ran, or I guess the state workers there that ran, the curator, I guess, that ran Alcatraz, said that this is nonsense, that Alcatraz is not haunted. There are no ghosts or spirits in this prison. And I was like, you're full of shit. I mean, that place is awesome, because we toured it. I've done a tour or two there, and but they just wouldn't. I mean, they weren't even interested.
Wow.
Obviously, the way that they put off that there's nothing to see here. Move along, move along.
Yeah, I was like, give me my money back, because I did a ghost tour there.
That's right. If that wasn't haunted, then there was false evidence.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh.
But so many places you go, and
Yeah.
I guess, but between the three of us, you like to see this whole house. Pull over.
Yeah.
Can we call that landowner? I just know, but I'm the same way. You look at so many places and you think, wow, I'd like to.
Oh, absolutely. I've been very fortunate about being able to investigate all those, and I live just down the road from Waverly Hills, so I've had access to that basically all my life. But I will tell you, I don't know if people have talked about this, but if you ever have the opportunity to investigate Ashmore Estates in Ashmore, Illinois, do it. Robin Terry is the owner. He works very well with the public. He's an awesome dude, great friend. But I've had some experiences there that will make me not want to go up to the third and fourth floor again by myself. So it's definitely a cool place. And
well, maybe we could do something between having something us and then get a group of people, come up with an event and say, look,
man,
I was there. Well, I'm talking about with you.
Oh yeah, let's do it
up and have a big group of people, because I'll probably be right there beside you. I do believe in ghosts. I do believe in spirits.
That's one of the places I've had people leave and say that they weren't coming back. I mean, it's legit. It's a legit location.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've had more experiences there and more definitive experiences, seeing an apparition and filming it at the same time with a group of people watching it all. And, it was something unbelievable. It's what every investigator dreams of, is seeing a full bodied apparition and filming it. And I got it all right there. And it was one of the craziest things I've ever experienced. And Nick makes fun of me because he was there and I was trying to set him up as bait. And when I was telling him about it, I was so excited. My eyes were watering. He was like, dude, you're crying. I'm like, I'm not crying. I was excited. He goes, no, you're crying.
I know there's a one episode, you speaking of that, where Nick there's one of the places supposed to be super scary, if you recall it. And he's going down, he's got his camera, and he turns to go in this one room and he goes, oh, He
Yeah.
jumps back and run. I'm not sure what he saw in that room, but
That was it's really interesting. That was the Linda Vista Hospital. And he described even down to the pattern on the hospital gown.
something looked right at him.
Yeah,
And
he had
was
an
like,
artist. He had an artist do that, and the cameras froze everything. I mean, it was a legit experience. And but he had an artist like draw that from his description, and he had to put on a shirt for a little while. But man, it was a cool drawing. It was a creepy looking thing.
Wow.
"Ew,
Wow, that's
wow."
amazing. Oh, well, we're so thankful that you could take time out of your busy schedule with everything. You have
Oh,
going
thanks for having me. Yeah,
on
I could talk
and
all night.
hang out with
Oh,
everybody.
you
Oh,
and me,
us too,
you
for
and me
sure.
both.
For sure. And yeah, and Robin, she had seen the same clip too, Keith, that you were referencing.
Yeah, she said it's something about that it's a nurse. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're so thankful that you could come over and hang out with us for a little bit here online and
All right,
some great stories. Do you have a few minutes to wait backstage till we wrap up?
sure.
There should be some beer and some peanuts or something back there in the
I'll
green
see with
room.
water,
Stocked it.
Oh,
Yeah, there
okay.
you go.
water and Coke Zero.
There you go. Oh, thank you,
Okay.
Lee. Oh,
Well,
so fun.
I remember meeting him now. I believe it was in Salem years ago, back when I first met Nick. And I think he was in the table back there kind of smiling and just at Nick's table when Nick was kind of making his way around. But yeah, now I remember meeting him and stuff. So very, very fun guy. I will tell you that getting the app. What's that?
Is it past your bedtime?
Oh no! What a long day! My goodness. Got up early and worked late. So, what's fun about this is we get to not only meet these people, but the opportunity coming along to get to investigate with them one day. And folks, you guys out there can come along with us because coming up here later in the year, once we get everything locked down, that
Robin, I agree. You tell him, Robin.
Oh, yawning. I know. No, but you're going to have the chance. And that'll be fun. That way we can go somewhere in West Coleman. Coleman, folks, in the house.
Oh,
that we can, get to go out and do some, hopefully pick some place that's just scare your boots off. That's scary and just like, oh, wow, that place was amazing. So, once we do that, get things locked down and then have an event somewhere, I think that would be really fun. If anything, just to have a group of a lot of friends and then do that. So if you got some places you're thinking of, but I think tonight Lee mentioned one. I don't think I've ever been there, but it would be fun to get to go somewhere where you get a big group of people. That way you don't get left alone in the scariest floor in the building.
I've heard amazing things about that place too. So
I've never been. So we can all sit together and hold hands and kind of, look out for each other. But anyway,
and next show, everybody, is our 50th show. Ta-da! We have something special planned. So
I remember the day.
So
back when we were young.
Yeah.
50 shows. 50,
right.
50. Oh, Lord, it's getting to be about as old as I am. Well, we wouldn't still be doing the things we do if it wasn't for all the very cool, cosmic, and fun people out there that are in there.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, everybody.
With us. And we put the word out. Now there's tag-alongs, watch some fun. We always keep it fun. Yeah. So we are working on some other very cool guests along the way. I know we're, it seems like as soon as we finish the show, we're on the phone again, setting up the next show and calling folks and making stuff happen. So thanks for checking us out and putting the word. Robin, she puts the word out and just like, hey,
yeah, she does. Thank you for sharing, Robin. Thank you.
She's our star peep there with us. We got love and respect all the time. So
and we hope you all have a wonderful night and a wonderful rest of your week.
WrestleMania this weekend.
We will be back for our 50th show. So stay tuned.
So see us. Love 2 weeks.
That's right. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye.